I never thought I'd get punched in the face by a woman in front of 30 horrified strangers at a Wendy's, but here we were. 1 second, I was awkwardly trying to compliment her earrings, and the next, my nose exploded in a spray of shame and blood. Everyone gasped. The cashier dropped a tray of fries. An old man shouted, "Call the cops!" My hands flew up in panic, my brain firing off 1,000 questions, none of them helpful. I hadn't even gotten her name yet. And trust me, that was only the beginning of the worst, most humiliating, and absolutely insane week of my life. Name's Nick Carter, by the way. I'm 26, living in a shoebox apartment with one window that barely opens, and a closet that could double as a broom cupboard. You'd think by now I'd have figured out how to talk to women without causing property damage, but clearly some lessons take longer than others. It all started 3 days earlier, when my best friend Tyler barged into my apartment carrying a 6-pack of Mountain Dew, and a wild, reckless idea that should have never seen the light of day. Tyler had this sparkle in his eye, the kind that usually meant, hey, let's build a ramp for our bikes, and definitely break both our legs. He slapped the cans on my coffee table, scattering my unopened mail, and declared that he was tired of watching me rot away in bachelor hell without even trying. "Dude, you are a smart, funny, decent-looking guy," Tyler said, pacing like he was delivering a TED Talk no one asked for. "There is absolutely no reason you should be going 300 days without so much as a flirty smile." I tried to explain, for the 100th time, that talking to women made my brain short-circuit like a dollar store radio in a rainstorm. My palms would sweat so much it looked like I had just run a marathon on my hands. I either said something so boring it physically hurt to hear, or something so weird it made strangers question my mental health. "That's exactly why," Tyler insisted, practically bouncing on the balls of his feet like a lunatic. "We are going to scientifically cure you." Before I could protest, he whipped out a printed sheet titled Operation Get Nick a Girlfriend Phase 1. It was covered in bullet points, diagrams, and what looked suspiciously like battle plans. My name was literally in a circle labeled Primary Target. I wasn't sure whether to laugh, cry, or fake my own death and move to Canada. According to Tyler, Phase 1 was simple: exposure therapy. Basically, he was going to drag me to as many normal human interactions with women as possible, until I either became socially competent or combusted from secondhand embarrassment. We shook on it. Well, I weakly tried to, and Tyler nearly dislocated my shoulder with enthusiasm. First stop, the local farmer's market. Low pressure, Tyler promised, as we navigated through a sea of hipsters selling organic mushrooms and hand-woven dog sweaters. "No one's going to judge you here." He was wrong. So wrong. The first woman I talked to, a sweet-looking lady selling homemade honey, asked if I liked bees. My brain, desperate for words, coughed up, "I once ate a bee by accident." She blinked at me like I'd confessed to arson, then silently handed me a jar and backed away slowly like I was a live grenade. Undeterred, Tyler pushed me toward a booth selling succulents. A beautiful girl with curly red hair smiled warmly and asked if I needed help. It was the perfect setup. Easy question, clear answers, nothing could possibly go wrong. "Are these plants edible?" I blurted, immediately wanting to crawl into a hole and never emerge. Her smile froze. She looked at me like I'd just suggested eating her cat. They're decorative," she said, voice brittle with confusion. Cool, I muttered, sweating through my shirt. "Because, sometimes I get hungry in my sleep and, you know." My words trailed off into an unbearable silence. Tyler looked like he was about to rupture a lung, trying not to laugh. I shoved a random cactus into my tote bag, jabbed a crumpled $10 bill at her, and practically sprinted away. By the time we left, I'd humiliated myself at 6 booths, been offered a pamphlet about managing intrusive thoughts, and accidentally bought 3 jars of pickled okra because I couldn't figure out how to say no. "Okay," Tyler said, patting my shoulder like a disappointed dad at a Little League game. "Clearly, we need to accelerate Phase 2. He wouldn't tell me what Phase 2 was, just grinned ominously and told me to trust the process. I should never have trusted the process, because 2 days later I found myself standing in line at Wendy's, about to experience the most disastrous moment of my entire life, and I hadn't even seen the real horror yet. I was still holding a half-eaten Frosty when the manager dragged me into the back hallway like I was some kind of fugitive, my heart pounding loud enough to rattle my ribs. He kept asking me over and over what I had done to provoke an incident, and every time I tried to explain, my mouth betrayed me with useless half-sentences that made me sound even guiltier. "Sir, we have a zero-tolerance policy for harassment," the manager said, flipping through a laminated handbook like he was about to cast a curse. "We may have to call the authorities unless you can clarify your intentions." All I had done, swear on my cactus collection, was tell the woman in front of me that her earrings looked like little suns, and somehow she interpreted it as a full-scale assault on her personal space. She screamed, shouted something about creeps, and delivered a right hook that would have made a professional boxer jealous. I stumbled back, crashing into a napkin dispenser and knocking it onto a kid's tray, sending ketchup flying in a red mist of doom. Now, sitting in a sticky plastic chair, trying to explain myself without sobbing, I realized something bone-chilling. Phase 2 wasn't just exposure therapy anymore. It was a social death march. Tyler had unleashed me into the world like a baby deer on roller skates, and I was crashing in the most public, most humiliating ways possible. Tyler stormed into the back, looking equal parts horrified and fascinated, like a scientist whose experiment just exploded. He somehow managed to talk the manager down, using words like misunderstanding and social anxiety, and he just got out of a long relationship, which was a lie so big it could have had its own zip code. After 15 agonizing minutes and a promise that I would never return to this establishment, I was released back into the wild. In the car, Tyler was laughing so hard he was wheezing like an asthmatic hyena, while I pressed an ice-cold soda against my throbbing nose, mourning what was left of my dignity. "Look, man, you're getting battle-hardened," Tyler gasped between fits of laughter. "Pain builds character. And chicks dig character. Chicks dig guys who don't get banned from fast food restaurants for existing," I muttered, staring at my reflection in the side mirror. Blood-stained shirt, defeated posture, haunted eyes. Okay, Tyler said, catching his breath. "Clearly phase 2 needs a little adjustment. We're moving to phase 3. I didn't even have the strength to ask what phase 3 was. All I knew was that somehow, impossibly, it was going to be worse. Because that night, at exactly 8:13 p.m., Tyler texted me 3 words that chilled me to my very bones. Speed. Dating. Tomorrow. The next evening, standing outside a Holiday Inn conference room with a paper name tag stuck to my shirt like a badge of doom, I seriously considered faking a heart attack just to escape. Tyler clapped me on the back so hard my knees almost buckled, grinning like a proud dad sending his awkward son off to war. "Bro," he said, holding both my shoulders like he was about to deliver a life-altering prophecy. "This is it. This is where you rise. This is your Rocky montage moment." "I'm gonna puke on someone's shoes," I muttered, staring at the sad little welcome to speed dating night banner sagging over the door like it had given up on life. The room smelled like hotel coffee and desperation. Little round tables were set up in neat rows, each with 2 chairs and a tiny plastic hourglass in the middle, counting down 3-minute conversations to social oblivion. About 20 women and 20 men milled around, clutching nervous smiles and plastic cups of bad wine. The host, a perky woman named Brenda, with a voice like a human air horn, clapped her hands and announced that the event was starting. Tyler shoved me forward so hard that I practically face-planted into the nearest empty seat. Across from me sat a woman with a bob haircut and an expression that said she'd rather be anywhere else. And honestly, same. "Hi," I croaked, my voice cracking like a teenager in a puberty documentary. "I'm Nick. I, like plants?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, but to her credit, she nodded politely and asked what kind of plants. My brain immediately betrayed me with a 5-minute monologue about succulents, aloe vera healing properties, and a weird side tangent about cactus reproduction that made her shift uncomfortably in her seat. Before I could dig the hole any deeper, the hourglass ran out, and Brenda shouted, "Switch!" like a prison warden changing cells. The next woman, a blonde with glittery nails and a permanent Instagram pout, barely looked up from her phone. I asked her what she did for fun, and she said, without irony, "Manifesting." "Manifesting what?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Everything," she said, twirling a strand of hair. "You just have to want it enough, you know?" "So," I said, flailing for some common ground, "could I manifest, like, a pizza right now?" She looked at me like I was dog poop on her designer shoe. I faked a coughing fit until the hourglass mercifully ran out. 3 conversations in, I was sweating so much my name tag started peeling off. Tyler was on the other side of the room, absolutely thriving, flashing his dimples and laughing at all the right moments like he was born for this. Meanwhile, my next date was a woman named Carla, who immediately told me she ran a crystal healing business and could sense that I had chaotic energy trapped in my pancreas. I had no idea how to respond to that, so I just nodded solemnly, like we were sharing a moment of profound spiritual truth. It only got worse. There was the woman who grilled me about my 5-year plan. I hope to not die was apparently not the right answer. The one who was convinced we had been married in a past life. She was very, very detailed about our fictional children. And the aspiring influencer who asked if I had at least 5,000 Instagram followers because she only dates for mutual clout. By the time Brenda rang the final bell, my soul felt like it had been tumble-dried and set on fire. I staggered toward the snack table, grabbing a handful of stale pretzels like a shipwreck survivor clinging to driftwood. Tyler bounded over, practically vibrating with excitement. "Dude, how'd it go? Meet any potential misses?" "Nix." "I think I need to join a monastery," I said hoarsely, stuffing pretzels into my mouth. "No way, man," Tyler said, shaking his head like I was the crazy one. "You're making progress. You're getting reps in. That's how you level up." I wanted to argue, but honestly I was too exhausted to even formulate sarcasm. That's when Brenda strutted over, clipboard in hand, and said, "Nick, you have a match. Congratulations." Tyler whooped so loud people actually turned to stare. I, on the other hand, felt a cold trickle of fear slide down my spine. Because judging by the mischievous glint in Brenda's eye, I was about to regret everything. I barely had time to shove the rest of the stale pretzels into my mouth before Brenda grabbed my elbow and steered me toward a corner of the room where a lone figure was waving at me like she was signaling a rescue helicopter. At first, through the blur of fluorescent lights and creeping dread, all I could make out was an aggressively sparkly top and hair so neon pink it probably had its own zip code. "Hiya, Nikki," she chirped, bouncing on the balls of her feet like a caffeinated squirrel. "I'm Destiny!" With a Y, not an I, because I stands for individualism and Y stands for yay. I stared, wide-eyed, nodding slowly like a hostage trying to keep the kidnapper calm. Destiny, with a Y, was about 5 feet tall, wearing a skirt made entirely of sequins and shoes that had tiny LED lights blinking at the soles like a runway ready for an emergency landing. Tyler, the traitor, was doubled over across the room, shaking with silent laughter so hard he was practically convulsing. "So," Destiny sang, twirling a chunk of her pink hair around one glitter-painted finger. "Brenda said we matched because we both have really unique energy signatures. Isn't that, like, totally cosmic?" "Yeah," I managed, feeling every social skill I had ever learned crumble into ash inside my chest. "Super cosmic." Destiny clapped her hands, producing a cloud of glitter that somehow materialized out of nowhere, and whipped out a massive planner covered in unicorn stickers. Okay, so first date ideas. I was thinking we could hit up a karaoke bar and do couples costumes. Do you have anything in a dragon onesie? I opened my mouth to respond, but Destiny was already flipping through her planner like she was booking appointments with Destiny itself. "Or," she continued breathlessly, "we could do axe throwing, but like blindfolded. It builds trust." At this point, I was seriously considering whether I could fake a sudden medical emergency, maybe collapse dramatically and hope someone carted me out before Destiny started planning matching tattoos. But then, just as I was reaching peak internal panic, something even worse happened. Destiny gasped, clutching her glittery heart, and shrieked, "Oh my gosh, he's here!" I turned around just in time to see a guy in a leather jacket and a permanent sneer storm into the room like a bad 90s movie villain. "That's my ex, Jax," Destiny hissed, grabbing my arm in a death grip. "We have to make him jealous right now. Come on, Nikki, kiss me." My brain shut down completely. Systems offline. No backup power. Just flashing red warnings and the word error scrolling across my mental dashboard. Before I could even process what was happening, Destiny yanked me down by the collar, and I found myself in the most awkward, chaotic, glitter-infused kiss of my entire life, right in the middle of a Holiday Inn conference room, surrounded by 40 strangers and one very angry-looking Jax. And that, my friends, is how I officially declared war on the most dangerous man I'd ever accidentally flirted with. For exactly 3 horrifying seconds, time froze. Me and Destiny locked in an awkward, glittery mess of a kiss. Jax glaring at us like he was calculating the maximum legal amount of violence he could unleash without going straight to prison. Then, everything exploded at once. Jax stormed toward us with the slow, deliberate rage of a guy who thought throwing punches was a valid communication method. Destiny shrieked, grabbed my hand like a lifeline, and yanked me toward the emergency exit like we were busting out of a hostage situation. "Run, Nikki!" she screamed, dragging me across the cheap carpet so fast I nearly lost a shoe. I stumbled after her, heart jackhammering against my ribs, dodging confused speed daters and toppling over a stack of folding chairs. Behind us, Jax was shouting something about respect and "I'll show you cosmic energy," while Brenda frantically blew a whistle no one listened to. We burst into the hotel lobby, Destiny hauling me toward the revolving doors like a woman possessed. I cast one last glance over my shoulder and caught sight of Jax barreling after us, knocking over a table of complimentary coffee urns like a caffeine-fueled Godzilla. Outside, the parking lot was a cold, chaotic mess of bad lighting and rental cars. Destiny spotted her battered neon green Volkswagen Beetle and sprinted toward it with the single-minded determination of a woman who had absolutely done this kind of escape before. "Get in!" she screeched, fumbling with the keys. I dove into the passenger seat just as Jax came flying out of the hotel, skidding on the wet pavement like an angry bowling ball. Destiny fired up the engine with a roar that sounded suspiciously unhealthy, jammed the car into reverse, and peeled out of the lot like we were fleeing a crime scene, which, honestly, we kind of were. As Destiny cackled wildly, weaving through traffic with terrifying confidence, I slumped against the seat, catching my breath and trying to process the fact that I'd just started an accidental blood feud with a man who looked like he had restraining order listed under hobbies. "Well, that was like so hot," Destiny beamed, throwing me a wink that made me seriously reconsider every decision that had led me to this moment. I tried to smile, but it came out more like a grimace. "Yeah, super romantic. Love a good vehicular getaway on the first date." "Second date," Destiny corrected brightly. "First one was the kiss, duh." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Tyler, naturally, who had apparently been live texting this whole disaster. Tyler: "Bro, Jax just tried to fight Brenda. Where are you?" Tyler: "Also, Jax is posting on Instagram. He says he's gonna find you." Tyler: "Dude, he called you a punk-ass energy thief. What even is this life?" I groaned, sinking lower into the seat. "Destiny," I said carefully, like approaching a wild animal. "How serious was your relationship with Jax? Like, on a scale from awkward Facebook breakup to restraining order pending?" Destiny just giggled and gunned the engine harder. "Well, we might have accidentally started a fire in his garage once. It was totally a misunderstanding, though." I stared at her, horrified. Destiny just kept smiling that same unhinged, glittery smile. And that's when I realized I wasn't just dodging bad dates anymore. I was officially on the run. The next morning, I woke up on Destiny's couch to the gentle, soothing sound of her two parakeets screaming bloody murder from a glitter-encrusted cage. My back ached like I'd been folded into origami during the night, and my phone was vibrating violently on the floor beside me. 7 missed calls from Tyler, 3 text messages, 1 video link titled, "Jax Promises Retribution," in all caps. I sat up too fast, nearly decapitating myself on a low-hanging crystal dream catcher. Destiny was in the kitchen, blending what looked like an unholy mixture of kale, coconut milk, and actual chunks of glitter. She waved the blender lid at me like it was a magic wand. "Morning, sunshine. I made you a detox smoothie. It'll flush out the fear toxins." I opened my mouth to decline, but my stomach made the executive decision to stay silent. I took the cup and stared at the murky, sparkly mess inside, wondering if jail food might actually be safer. Tyler's texts were relentless. Tyler: "Bro, he posted your license plate. He's offering $100 to anyone who finds you." Tyler: "I'm pretty sure this is how cults start." Tyler: "We need a plan." Destiny skipped over, flopping onto the couch beside me and nearly knocking the smoothie into my lap. "Good news," she chirped, scrolling through her phone. "I signed us up for a tantric partner yoga class. It's going to be so healing for your root chakra, especially with all that incoming negative male aggression energy." I blinked at her. "You realize I might literally get murdered today, right?" I said, voice cracking halfway through. She waved a sparkly hand dismissively. "Psh. If Jax finds you, just do what I always do. Confuse him with kindness. Hug him until he vibrates with suppressed rage." Somewhere deep inside, a part of me actually considered it. Another part, the part that liked having all my teeth intact, began quietly screaming. Tyler's final message buzzed in. "Tyler, meet me at Smiley's Diner in 30. We gotta fix this." I glanced at Destiny, still rambling about aura colors and the spiritual benefits of gluten-free pancakes, and realized I was at a crossroads. I could stay here hiding under glittery blankets and dodging violent ex-boyfriends. Or I could try, somehow against all odds, to reclaim my dignity. Destiny, I said, forcing a smile. You're awesome, but I think I need to go handle this. She pouted dramatically but nodded, pressing a friendship bracelet into my hand like it was a sacred artifact. Stay radiant, Nikki, she said with terrifying sincerity. I promised I would, slipped out the door and sprinted toward my car. Smiley's diner was 20 minutes away if I drove fast and prayed harder. I didn't know exactly what Tyler's plan was, but deep down I knew one thing for sure. There was absolutely no way it wasn't going to make everything 10 times worse. Smiley's diner looked exactly like a place where questionable life decisions were made. Cracked leather booths, a jukebox stuck on 80s rock ballads, and a waitress who looked like she could smell fear. Tyler was already at the corner booth, waving frantically like he was flagging down a helicopter. I slid into the seat across from him, still glancing nervously over my shoulder like Jax might crash through the window at any second. Tyler shoved a napkin across the table at me. It had a detailed diagram scrawled in blue ink, circles, arrows, and a very unflattering stick figure labeled Nick in danger. All right, Tyler said, tapping the napkin like it was a classified battle map. Operation Ghost Protocol. We're wiping your digital footprint. No more Nick Carter. From now on, you're Rick, Barker. You're from Idaho. You like fishing. I stared at him, my brain stuttering. You want me to fake my death because I kissed someone's ex at speed dating? Tyler grinned. Bro, you didn't just kiss his ex. You disrespected his entire soul lineage. Jax thinks you're his mortal nemesis now. We gotta go big. I buried my face in my hands. This is insane. Is it? Tyler countered, eyes wide and wild. Or is it exactly the chaos you need to finally evolve? Before I could argue, our waitress stomped over and slapped 2 mugs of burnt coffee onto the table. You boys planning a heist or something? She asked, deadpan. Witness protection program, Tyler said solemnly. She didn't even blink. Pancakes come with that? Tyler ordered 2 stacks without missing a beat. While we ate, Tyler laid out the rest of his brilliant/deranged plan. Ditch the Beetle. Destiny's car was basically a giant glowing target. Buy a burner phone, deactivate all social media, and, this was the kicker, create a fake backstory about moving to Alaska to pursue a lifelong dream of crab fishing. People respect crab fishermen, Tyler insisted between bites of syrup-soaked pancake. It's rugged, it's believable, it's untouchable. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. By the time we drained the last of the coffee, Tyler slammed his hands on the table with a grin so wide it could split his face. We start now, he said. Clean break. New life. Rick Barker, king of the crab boats. I hesitated, heart thudding painfully. Somewhere deep down, a small stubborn voice whispered that maybe I should stop running. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to face my disasters instead of switching names every time life got messy. But then Tyler pulled out a pair of fake aviator sunglasses and a floppy fisherman hat, shoving them into my hands like a man on a mission. And like the idiot I was, I put them on. We were halfway out the diner when the door slammed open, and there stood Jax, blocking the exit, smiling the kind of smile you never want aimed at your face. For a solid 3 seconds, none of us moved. Tyler had 1 foot halfway out the door. I was mid-sip of a coffee I suddenly didn't even want. Jax stood there, arms crossed, smile sharp enough to cut glass, blocking the only exit like a boss fight we had 0 chance of winning. Going somewhere, Nick? He drawled, stepping closer. Instinctively, I yanked the ridiculous fisherman hat lower over my face, like that would somehow make me invisible. Tyler muttered something that sounded suspiciously like a prayer. Jax cracked his knuckles one by one, slow and deliberate. You think you can disrespect me, kiss my girl, and then just leave? His voice was low, almost calm, the kind of calm that happens right before a nuclear explosion. Tyler tried to intervene first. Hey man, let's be reasonable. Stay out of this, pretty boy, Jax snapped, without even looking at him. All eyes in the diner were on us now. Even the jukebox seemed to stop mid-song. I swallowed hard, my entire body buzzing with terror. I could lie. I could run. I could throw a pancake at his face and bolt. A dozen desperate escape plans zipped through my brain, none of them good. Instead, for the first time in forever, I did something completely, terrifyingly insane. I stood up, took 1 wobbly step forward, and said, "You're right." The words felt like broken glass coming out, but I kept going. I disrespected you. I didn't mean to. It was stupid. It was desperate. I took a shaky breath, feeling the whole diner leaning closer. I didn't kiss Destiny to hurt you. I kissed her because I was scared and confused, and honestly, because I'm a disaster with women. Jax blinked, thrown off by the sudden confession. And if you want to hit me for that, I said, spreading my arms wide, then fine. But it won't fix anything. It won't unkiss her. It won't make either of us less sad or less stupid. The diner was dead silent. Jax's fist tightened, then loosened. He looked at me for a long, long moment, like he was seeing me for the first time. Not as an enemy, but as another loser just barely keeping it together. He exhaled sharply through his nose, shook his head. Man, you're pathetic, he muttered. And then, miracle of miracles, he turned and walked away.